Hello and welcome to Longship Gaming. Today we will be talking about Star Wars Unlimited, Shadows of the Galaxy, Set 2, drafting the commons and uncommons from the set. So the bulk of the cards that you're going to be getting, of course, which ones are ones that you should almost always take, depending on your colors, and ones that you should try and avoid. So as an introduction, we did a part 1 that looked at the leaders that you're going to be drafting. Now here in part 2, we're just looking at the commons and uncommons. I'll point out that this is a draft analysis, not really intended for sealed, but I think there's a lot of crossover between the two, so you can take some advice from this and apply it to the upcoming pre-releases. At the time that I'm recording this, we're about a week out for the pre-release, so this may help in that regard. Just to level set where I've come from, I've done a lot of drafting of set 1, 15 plus drafts by now or more in person, and some force table testing as well, which is definitely worth your time if you haven't done any. I don't know as of this recording whether or not they have the draft for set 2 available yet, and I'll provide a link to force tables so you can check it out for yourself. And I want to shout out to Face to Face Games, where I've been doing the lion's share of all the drafts. They've been a great host and a great place to hang out. It's a great environment and a great crowd. Overall, for set 1, I normally play best of 3, which is of course also what this guide is based on. I don't personally like best of 1 because I think one, you don't really get your money's worth out of the decks that you've drafted, and it really isn't a true indication of whether or not your deck is any good. And overall, I'd say I'm on average most of the time I'm a 2-1 player, so a solid B student. But I am, by all means, not the be-all and end-all. There are plenty of drafters out there, I'm sure, who are better than I am. I just have done it quite a bit. Not a professional, I'm just a motivated casual. There are no professional drafts yet, as far as I can tell, and who knows if they'll ever do that. I can't say I wouldn't be motivated to do that as a player. Because limited is really where my interest lies with TCGs. I do enjoy playing constructed, but I really, really like limited. I didn't collect any stats for the cards that I did, or like decks that I drafted in set 1, but I'm going to do that for set 2, just to be able to track how well I evaluated what was in this set. So in a few months' time, when set 3 rolls around, I can look back on this and see, judge whether or not I have an idea what I'm talking about. I stated off the top that this is a guide to common and uncommon cards only for set 2. Rares and legendaries are typically the bombs that you're looking for. And let's face it, value drafting is something that a lot of us are going to be doing, if not all of us. Money is always an object, generally, and either you're going to be value drafting for the value of the cards themselves and not necessarily playing them in your deck. You get lucky if you can, or just trying to fill out your collection. And because of the scarcity, or what looks like the scarcity for set 2 during its product cycle, you're going to be doing a lot of value drafting. So there is absolutely no problem with value drafting whatsoever. I do it almost all the time. But you get lucky when your rares or legendaries actually end up working with the deck that you draft. But again, most of the commons and uncommons are going to be guiding how you play, and you can make very solid decks at a quality common and uncommon. So we're going to go over some quick draft basics. So I ascribe to Baron, the method or the acronym that I believe Tower Number 9 came up with, which is a variation on bread from Magic. So we have bombs, ambush, removal, opening, and nice to haves. So bombs, the kind of cards that completely warp the play environment in your favor. Ambush, any units that come out and immediately are able to attack other units, which I think are on the same level personally with removal, but removal tends to be a little more costly. So removal are things, of course, like Open Fire and Vanquish from the first set. Opening, make sure that you have at least 7, depending on the composition of your deck, 7 or 8 opening plays, like 2 cost or 2 resource cost units to play out, so you don't end up bricking and behind the 8 ball and not playing anything till turn 3. And then there's nice to have things that sort of like fill out your deck that work with the aspects that you have and actually may have some synergies. Be aware of the drafted leaders in your pod. In part 1, I talked about how I believe there's going to be a lot of competition for Cad Bane. More specifically, Villainy and Cunning are going to be extremely in demand overall because, well, spoiler alert, they're really quite good in set 2. So be aware of who to the left and right of you, like 2 or 3, even 2 or 3 seats away from you, depending on the size of your pod, what people are actually looking to get. So I tend to value high toughness leaders that come out no later in turn 7, but in this set, no one comes out later than 7. So I think it'll be fine overall. But all leaders are, of course, not made the same. So have a look at our part 1. I tend to limit my aspects during the leader draft. So if I have a villainy, I've kept a villainy or a heroic as my first one. If I get past another villainy or heroic, I'm usually keeping them. It doesn't matter really what the aspect is. If the aspects agree, that's fantastic. If they don't, then at least you've got 2 different aspect colors to work with. That's just my method of doing it because I find it easier for me to guide the draft, so I'm not having to make any weird pivots partway through. And to that end, I typically lock in to my colors by the middle of the first pack. So no later than 6 or 7 cards into the first pack, I've already decided what direction I'm going in and stick with it. It's worked out for me. I'm sure you could pivot later, but this way you don't have to splash colors and pay the aspect tax. And I say no, mostly no splashing. I mean, there are really no cards out of aspect of the aspect that you decide to go with that are really worth paying that tax for, with the exception, at least in set 1, of the occasional double same aspect, like a double cunning or double aggression card. So like if I draft, which actually happened a couple of times, so I drafted a cunning in set 1, I would almost always play it because it's still worth playing, even on turn 6 rather than turn 4, because you're never really going to be in double colors in a draft. You're always going to have 3 aspects in total. So that's the only case where I would say, actually, splash for that and pay the tax if you have to. And overall, I've set these, I've done 3 ranks for cards in this. Rank 1 is a possible pick 1. If you don't have a very strong or meaningful or impactful rare or legendary, and you're not looking to value draft it, then you could possibly pick this as a pack 1 pick 1 over, or I guess pack 2 or pack 3 pick 1 over what you've got for your rare or legendary. Although legendaries you're almost always going to be taking no matter what it is. So let's say rares. Rank 2, these are your bread and butter cards that make up the bulk of your deck. They're all perfectly fine and perfectly playable, and of course vary greatly depending on who your leader is and the synergy of the draft that you've got going. And rank 3 is ones that generally are best to avoid. Ones that I don't see you having any real benefit from taking these other than to fill out your 30. If you absolutely have to fill out your 30, then sure, take take these cards, but I would not be happy playing them. Okay, so we're going to start with rank 1. And we're starting with Vigilance. So, again, this is my opinion, but I've gone through all the commons and uncommons, and I think that these ones are ones that you are going to be always happy taking. possibly even as a pack one, pick one, pick one. So we have the client. I'm not going to go into super depth with these, and of course you're going to see that we've got 3 uncommons here, but 2 commons, being very strong in vigilance. So the client is just incredible. A good body on him, comes in shielded. You can place bounties on opponents. So if you're playing a bounty heavy deck, or one that cares about bounty, like, well, with with Bosk, let's say, if you're playing red blue, he is absolutely essential to be able to use Bosk's or get a benefit out of Bosk's bounty ability, or ability to affect bounties. Queel is very strong and heroic. He's got that Restore 1. He's a 2/3, so he's got a good body to him. And on attack, discard a card from your deck. If it shares an aspect with your base, return it to your hand. Very easy to actually get a lot of value out of him if he, lasts more than, say, the first turn. If someone doesn't take him out, but very strong. Card advantage is always good. Bringing back Cargo Juggernaut from set 1. A reprint shows up in this because, to be honest, every time I have drafted a Cargo Juggernaut in blue, I have never, ever, ever regretted it. It's a big body on the thing, shielded, but it's the heal 4 is a significant amount. Unfortunately, shares no other synergies in the set, but I honestly have never regretted taking a Cargo Juggernaut, sometimes even as pick 1. Fen Rao, very solid, of course, just in Vigilance. A 5/6 for 6 when played. You may play an upgrade from your hand. It costs 2 less. So in an upgrade-centric deck, fantastic. It even works on bounties. When you play an upgrade on this unit, give an enemy unit -2/-2 for this phase. So pretty potent. You can play him, play an upgrade on him in the same turn. Most upgrades are not tremendously expensive. And then have an effect on the board right away. Just amazing. And of course, Mandalorian, which is not an insignificant keyword. And probably the most direct and effective piece of removal in set 2 is Rival's Fall. Cost 6, and it's just defeat a unit. Don't mind that noise in the background. That was just a cat knocking something over. So, moving on to Command. Not too many in this. We have Clone Deserter and Modded Cohort. So you're going to see a trend here with 1-cost cards that are 2/3, and they're across most aspects. Restore 1, Bounty Draw card. I'm not too concerned in most decks of my opponent getting that 1 card when you have such a strong 1-cost opening. It works very well with most leaders who have an ability to actually give them a little boost, like, say, Ray. Turn 1 is pretty good. Restore 1, also very good early advantage to keep your base healthy if they go significantly aggro. But Clone Deserter is obviously going to be a target over your base. And Modded Cohort. So, both of these, of course, are both commons. Now, Ambush is, of course, very good. But a 4, that's a 2/4, but has Ambush, Raid 2. So normally a 4/4 Ambush is not particularly exciting. It's basically just the skiff from set 1 without the requirement to have another command card out. But to be honest, and I'm going to point this trend out, I think Command is probably the weakest aspect in set 2. But I think it's going to be core to being able to at least have some control of the battlefield with this ambush ability. And again, because it's power 2, can work with some leaders, again, like Ray. So, blue-green, that's the typical sort of combination that you're looking for. Command and Vigilance, but yeah. But sadly, I think these are really the only 2 command cards, and they are, of course, limited to heroic as well. Again, they're not particularly strong in set 1. Aggression, I have 3 cards here, and 2 of them are, of course, uncommons. Dengar, an amazing turn 1 play. Underworld and Bounty Hunter, which are important keywords. When you play an upgrade on a unit, you may deal 1 damage to that unit. So if you're leaning heavily into bounties, he's your man. You're looking for him. And note, of course, these are all also in villainy. There weren't really any potential pick ones in heroic, or even just aggression on its own. Guavian Antagonizer it's a 1 for 2/3 with Saboteur. Bounty, so you'll notice that's part of that cycle of 1 cost 2/3s. And Bounty is draw a card. Again, not something I'm necessarily concerned about. And then Black Chrysanthemum, or just Chrysanthemum here. Cost of 5 is a 3/7, 1 played, and if an enemy unit has a bounty, you may ready him. So bounty dependent, but he also has Underworld, Wookiee, and Bounty Hunter as keywords, all of which are, somewhat meaningful in this set. On attack, choose a ground unit. You may deal 1 damage to it for each damage on this unit. So pretty potent. An effect that actually is probably a bit better than Grit. If you had Grit as well, he'd be ridiculous. But at Uncommon, I think he is pretty strong. Cunning, we have 5 cards in Cunning that are very strong. And again, continuing that trend, we have Cartel Turncoat. A Bounty, draw a card, but he's a 1, 2, 3 in space, which is far above what you would normally find in that arena. Spare the target, return enemy non-leader unit to its owner's hand, collect that unit's bounties. So not only is it a waylay, it's a waylay with an upside. So, but of course only in heroic. Collect that unit's bounties. So if you're playing into a lot of bounties, you have a way just to have control of the battlefield and grab the bounties off of your opponent's cards. And even better if you're playing against an opponent's cards that have built-in bounties, which some of them do. New adventure. So when I was mentioning that not playing cards out of aspect, I had to play the task, or the tax, sorry. New adventure is pretty potent even at 4. Return a non-leader unit that costs 6 or less to its user's hand. Then its owner may play it for free. And you can also play that on your own cards, which is great. So, looking to the right of him, Emphas Nest. A lot of competition for Emphas Nest. Probably one of the best uncommons in the game. For 6, a 5/4 with ambush. When a friendly unit, including this one, is attacking using ambush, the defender gets -3. I think that's fantastic. If Emphas Nest survives the turn that she comes out, then New Adventure, maybe the next turn for 4. You could even get in an attack, maybe if it had low health. Pull it back to your hand, play it again for free that turn for a discount. Again, you're likely not to see both of them because they are uncommons, but Emphas Nest is really quite good. Wanted. So we have our first bounty in this list, a 0-cost bounty, ready to friendly resources. When this unit is defeated or captured, its opponent collects its bounty. So it's basically Boba Fett's ability, just in access for cunning for everybody. 0 cost, putting the upgrade out, that's not insignificant. Readying those friendly resources, also very good. For an early game play is really solid. Now, out of our generic cards, or our aspect-less cards, or villainy or heroic, there really is only one that stands out. And much like Emphas Nest, if you're in villainy, and even if you're not, actually, this card is bonkers, and I can't believe it exists at Uncommon. It is Toro Calican, a character that did not last very long in the TV show, but is a 3 for 3/5. When you play another bounty hunter, you may deal 1 damage to it. If you do ready it, use this ability only once per round. I mean, just incredible. And Bounty Hunter is so easy to pull off if you're in one, villainy, and two, playing bounty hunters, of which there are a lot. You're going to get a lot of value out of Toro. Again, this is the kind of card I'd expect to see at rare, but they put him in uncommon. I'm not going to complain. He's going to be very strong. All right, so now we're looking at rank 2 of Vigilance. So this is what makes up the bulk of what you're going to be drafting. All these cards, although again every card is situational, these are really ones that you can't go wrong with. So I'm not going to go into a lot of depth because there's a lot of cards to cover. But you'll note here the Hylabon Enforcer, not quite as strong as the other ones in that one cost cycle that have the draw a card bounty. It's a 1/4 with grit, which is good, but works in specific decks, like, say, Kira. It's not terrible, but I don't know if you're going to get the same value out of it as you will out of the early game tempo from the other cards in that cycle. Pike Sentinel, early game Sentinel, pretty good. 3 bodies, nothing to laugh at on turn 1. Sonara, with grit, but when exhausted, she gains the bounty, deal 5 damage to a base. Putting that at 1 in a low rank too. If she didn't have such a heavy body and grit, that bounty is because you do actually want to be attacking with her, unless you find a way to put Sentinel on her, but don't think there really is anyway in set 2. Super Commando Squad are excellent when they come in. They'll be shielded and have Sentinel on the turn they come out, which is pretty strong, but it's diminishing returns after that. Clan Saxon Gauntlet, Concord Dawn Interceptors get stronger when defending, so you're never really attacking with them. Village Protectors are very strong turn 3 play in Heroic Vigilance. Rose Tico, I was originally thinking of putting her into rank 1, but I'm not entirely sure if she's going to be quite as effective in Limited as she is going to be in Constructed. I think she's very much on the cusp of being a rank 1. I would not be, if I was in these colors, I would not be dismayed to take her. A 2/6 for 4 is pretty strong with shielded. And of course she can switch out her shield token for the 2 experience, which makes her even harder to remove. So the armor, a low 2, I'd say, because it really depends on how many Mandalorians that you have out. And a 3/5 for 5 is not particularly great. Although, mind you, she can put the shield token on herself as well. But maybe not that impactful on turn 5 unless you somehow have 2 other Mandalorians out. Gentle Giant, great, a 2/8 and can heal. On attack, it remains to be seen whether or not it's going to be all that impactful in the environment, but you never know. We'll see. I think it's just a solid 2 on 6. Although, grit is its saving grace, I think. Follow the Way, a good 2 cost, 2 for 1/3. If it's upgraded, it gets +1/+1. Of course, you're going to be taking that one if you already have the upgrades available to you. Rickety Quad Jumper. On attack, you may reveal the top card of your deck. It was not a unit. Give an experience token another unit. So a bit gambly, but still the chance to, it's only a 1/3, so it's not going to be doing much, but a 1/3 to another unit. That's the thing that sort of makes it weak. There's always that possibility. So I think it's a low rank too. Embo. Underworld Bounty Hunter, not unimportant keywords. When this unit completes an attack, if the defender was defeated, heal up to 2 damage from a unit, and it's 3 for 3/4, which is really solid. Here's the most sort of boring and bog standard card out there, the Hawk 290 Freighter. 2/5 for 3. Doesn't do anything, just exists as a ship. Vehicle and transport, which currently really has no synergy in the set, so it's just there. 5 body is not terrible. It can get in for some work over some turns. Not hugely enthusiastic, but it's certainly not a terrible card. Rocher Tree Tender, a 2/4 with grit on 3, is pretty solid. Nema Outpost Constables, a 2/6 Sentinel for 4. Very good, an excellent roadblock. Vigilant Pursuit Craft, Sentinel, and Smuggle ability to it, a 5 for 3/5. It's okay as a Sentinel, little behind the curve, but that's basically what all ships really are. And the smuggle is a cost 7, so you're unlikely to be smuggling that out late in the game unless you're absolutely desperate to do so. Public Enemy, a 0 cost bounty, give a shield token to a unit. So that's pretty strong if you need to do something to have an ability that you need to synergize with the bounty. Giving a shield token to a unit is actually pretty strong depending on who you're playing. Yeah, the 0 cost is pretty good. I do like those 0 cost bounties. Top target, heal 4 from a unit or base. If this unit was unique, heal 6 instead. That's a 1 cost. Again, pretty good. That's a big swing for a cost of 1. Covert Strength, cost of 1, heal 2 damage from a unit and give an experience token to it. Does have smuggle ability. Worthwhile actually taking in a vigilance deck. Either playing it out when you need it or just keeping it as a potential smuggle for later in the game. Have to see how this one turns out, but I don't dislike it because that's the putting experience on a card in this environment can be quite important. And Fell the Dragon, so removal but restricted to a 5 or more power. And it's non-leader unit, so it's not a terrific piece of removal, but it is removal, and it's worth prioritizing. So moving on to Command. So Command, as I said, is not particularly strong, I feel, in set 2. Outland Tie is terribly statted, a 2 for 2/1. Sorry, 2/1 for 2. When played, you may give an experience token to another unit that costs 3 or less. So you're playing this one on turn 2 and hope you have something out there that can benefit from it. It's not terrific, but at least has that when played ability that I'm not too annoyed about. I'd say it's a low 2. Pirate Battle Tank, Sentinel. 4/6 for 6 is strong with a smuggle ability. I don't dislike that one either, and it's Underworld, which is important. Crosshair. Crosshair is an interesting one. I don't know if in practicality it's going to make much of a difference in either sealed or constructed, or I should say limited or constructed. A 2/6 for 4, which is pretty good, but it has an action to give it +1 for this phase, just an action of spending resources. And the other action is this unit deals damage equal to his power to an enemy ground unit. Crosshair could get out of control if you give it some upgrades. Just be able to snipe things off the board may be pretty potent. We'll have to see. I'd say, it's a solid pick anyway at 2/6, but it's a corner case to me as to whether or not you're actually going to get use out of the sniping capability. Jabba's Rancor, big cost of 8, so normally I wouldn't like 8s, and there really isn't as much ramp in this set in Villainy. So we'll see if you ever actually get to play it out, but 9/9 for 8 if you control Jabba, so you'd have to have Jabba as the leader. Costs 1 less, so a 7 cost 9/9. When played on attack, deal 3 damage to another friendly ground unit and 3 damage to an enemy ground unit. I mean, it's an answer. It's a question that your opponent has to answer. I just don't think it's going to be played very often or make it to that point in limited games, but we'll have to see. So I think it's a low 2, but it's certainly not a bad card. Freetown Backup. 2 cost 1/4 on attack. Give another friendly unit +2/+2 for this phase, which is pretty good. Keep something valuable alive for that phase so you can attack with it. Has a very high smuggle cost, though, of 4. So at least you can have that in your back pocket if you're even just resourcing it. Otherwise, it's not doing really very much on its own. And Fringe doesn't even have a keyword significance in this set. I guess, you could play Freetown Backup with Boba, but you'd have to have Boba to really get any use out of him. Sundari Peacekeeper, very strong. 3 cost 1/5 with Raid 2 and Restore 2. Very tempted initially to put this into rank 1. It's a very high rank 2. Probably one of the best uncommons in the game, but again, restricted to heroic, which lowers its value a bit. So constructed, it's going to be in every green heroic deck for sure. And Mandalorian is not insignificant either as a trait, but a 1/5, it could be significantly damaged before it actually even comes out to do anything. So we'll have to see how it turns out. Echo, a 4/4 for 4, the Restore 2. I mean, there's a lot of Restore in this environment. You may discard a card from your hand, give 2 experience tokens to a unit in play with the same name as the discarded card. Again, in limited, that's not really going to be something that's going to be likely to occur. Although it does say tokens to a unit in play with the same name, so it's not restricted like Hunter's ability, which is to a unique card. So could have some utility. It's the Restore 2 that's pretty solid for that cost. Adelphi Patrol Wing, a great space unit. A 4/6 for 5. When played, you may attack with a unit. If you have the initiative, it gets +2 for this attack. I think that's pretty solid. Spark of Hope. Well, here you have your 1 of 2 cards with ramp in this set. Choose a card in your discard pile. Oh, there is another one too, but it's a bounty that on a unit that you're probably never going to play. Choose a unit in your discard pile if it's defeated this phase. Put it into play as a resource, which is good because it doesn't deplete your deck, depletes your discard. But it does cost 2, so might be playable on turn 2 to give you some ramp in heroic. Warzone Lieutenant, really not much to say about them. It's a 1 cost for 2/2, synergizes well with a lot of leaders. And then Gamorrean Retainer, a 3/2 for 2. If you control another command unit, it gains Sentinel. So, I mean, it's pretty much like Gamorrean Guards, just same idea. You have to have something already in command to give it Sentinel. And a 3/2 is not particularly exciting, so I think this is sort of like a low 2. But a power of 3 on turn 1. I'm not really going to be complaining about that too much. Scanning Officer. This one's interesting. A 2 for 2/3 is not bad. Really kind of bog standard for a 2 cost. Reveal 3 enemy resources. Defeat each resource with a smuggle keyword revealed for each resource defeated this way. This controller puts the top card of the deck into play as a resource. So, it's Magical Christmas Land if you are playing against someone who has a lot of smuggle cards, and they're probably not going to. You play this out on turn 3, you could get some good hits and then mill their deck a little. But, of course, that depends on them having the smoke. So, basically, there's a slight upside to the Scanning Officer, but you're mostly just playing her for a 2/3. A reputable hunter, a 3/4 for 3. If an enemy unit has bounty, this unit costs 1 less to play. Well, generally, that's not going to be that hard to pull off. He's also a bounty hunter. He's got good stats. Even if I didn't have a bounty out there, I would not mind playing this card on turn 3. Weequay Pirate Gang, a 3/3 ambush for 4, which is a little behind the curve, but ambush is never technically a bad thing. The benefit really here is the smuggle cost if you really need to get one out later in the game for some reason. Say that your opponent's taken the initiative, you've got cards still to play, and you have the resources to do it, why not smuggle it out? Even if you don't use the use it to attack anything. It's still just an okay unit to pull out. It's a low 2, but it's not a terrible card. Discerning Veteran, so a 5 for 3/4, which is a bad rate, but it is a bounty hunter. I should point out, of course, Weequay Pirate Gang was Underworld, which is not as I said, bounty hunter and Underworld and Mandalorian are the 3 keywords that you're looking for in this set. Discerning Veteran, our first capture card. There's not a lot of capture at the common and uncommon level. This is basically just straight up removal on a body. If you can keep the bounty hunter, or you keep the discerning veteran alive, even better. To keep something really nasty off the board, a non-leader ground unit, and by turn 5 or later, you're taking something beefy off the board, even if it's just something as simple as a sentinel that you don't want out there. Mercenary Company, a reprint, a 5/5 ambush and overwhelm for 6. Never going to be a bad thing, but I think it's got a little bit of a benefit in set 2 with Underworld as a trigger, or as a keyword. We have a couple more bounties in green. We have Bounty Hunter Quarry, cost of 1. Search the top 5 cards of your deck, or 10 cards if this unit is unique, for a unit that costs 3 or less, and play it for free. I don't mind this one at all. It triggers bounties, and getting to play a cost 3 or less for free. That's pretty solid. In limited, more than likely, even in the top 5 cards, you're going to find that 3. Price on your head, costs 2 for this bounty, but put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. So here's one of your sources of ramp. If you're playing that kind of deck, somehow that can leverage bounties effectively, and you want to ramp, this is probably always going to be something that you're going to want to take. Outflank. So this is like Rebel Assault, but does not restrict it, and you don't, of course, don't get the +1 bonus, but doesn't restrict it to anything outside of the units that you already have. A good finish for a cost of 1, really, especially in late game. Gives you the tempo, allows you to be able to take initiative on a subsequent turn. I quite like Outflank as a quick event. Timely Intervention, costs a 1 play unit from your hand, give it ambush in this phase, and you can also smuggle it. Smuggle cost is pretty high, but a 1 cost to turn anything from your hand, any cost, into ambush, that's going to be pretty solid, especially, again, in late game. Moment of Glory, I don't really generally like these momentary buffs, but giving a unit +4/+4 on the phase can allow something to survive and actually crack back because of the +4. It's much more significant than, say, a +2/+2. Cost of 3, it's alright. It's a low 2. There will be some times when you're going to want to play this card, especially if you're playing an aggressive deck, just to pump out that damage as quickly as possible. I think it can be okay, but it's not terrific. Take Captive, so here's our other ability and command to capture something. 3 cost, friendly unit captures an enemy non-leader unit in the same area. So I think it's okay for a cost of 3. It's just, in a sense, removal, but you got to be careful on what you put it on. So rank 2 for aggression cards. We have our Death Watch Loyalist, a 3/3 for 3, in Villainy, with Grit, and Overwhelm. Mandalorian. So you're looking, of course, if you're playing Gar Saxon and you have your upgrades, that's who you're going to be playing. But otherwise, it's pretty much a bog standard, 3 for 3 with some upsides if those upsides actually happen during the game. Punishing one, a 3/4 for 3 when an upgraded enemy is defeated. You may ready this unit, use this ability once each round, which is pretty good rate for a ship, to be honest, even on its own, even if the upgraded ability doesn't trigger. Trandoshan Hunters, a 6/4 for 5 with Overwhelm, and if the enemy unit has a bounty, give an experience to this unit. So that's if an enemy unit has a bounty. So they could get to 7/5, which is pretty potent upside, and over a 7 Overwhelm, pretty strong. And Underworld and Bounty Hunter, not insignificant. And at common, that's a pretty beefy card in Red Villainy. Headhunting I was sort of not terrifically happy about this card. Attack with up to 3 units, one at a time. They can't attack bases. Each Bounty Hunter gets a +2. I put this as a low 2. I don't dislike it, mind you. I just don't think it's going to be likely you're going to be able to attack with 3 units. Restricted and not attacking bases, of course, makes sense because it's a potent ability. Each Bounty Hunter that attacks this way goes +2. So it's more about, if you are in a situation where you do have your Bounty Hunters out, you do have bounties out there that you want to collect, headhunting be fantastic on the turn that you can play it. It's a great tempo play. I just don't think that it's really something that you're going to be, really gunning for at rank 2. Not terrible, but I think it's a very low rank 2. Heroic Renegade, a 2/3 with for 2. Underworld trigger, has grit. Not much to say about it. On curve, I would not hate playing this on turn 1. Katsuonyo, Mandalorian, Underworld, and Bounty Hunter, a 3/2 for 2. Saboteur. Not too many Saboteurs in this set, so I think going to be pretty potent, maybe. When this unit deals combat damage to a base, you may defeat an upgrade that costs 2 or less. Not likely to happen that often, but good if you're getting bounties placed on your cards. But the a 2 health there, Ketsu's not going to be lasting very long. Cassian, very strong uncommon card. A 3/5 for 3 with a smuggle. When played using smuggle, ready this unit. So a card that actually in this game that you want to smuggle, fairly high cost, but not really a surprise when it comes out later in the game. I think he's good, but he's not rank 1 good. And Night Owl Skirmisher, a 4/3 for 3 with smuggle. Not much to say. A Mandalorian. That's pretty, yeah. Again, not terrifically exciting, but is a Mandalorian. Can be smuggled if you need to resource it, and it's got a okay stats. Then we have in our last group here the Valiant Assault Ship, a 3/4 for 4. Saboteur. So again, not too many of that out there, so it's worth looking into. On attack, if the defending player controls more resources than you, this unit gets a +2 for this attack. So, not likely to happen unless you're up against a ramp. And there is not that much ramp, so I wouldn't really count on that +2 ability coming into play. But a ship that's a 3/4 for 4, that's kind of on its curve. And compared to that, we have the Desperado Fighter, a 5/6 for 5. Oh, pretty good stats for a ship. You're not going to see too many that are that powerful, so that's going to dominate the space lane on turn 5. Cripple Authority, cost of 2, draw a card. Each opponent that controls more resources than you discards a card from their hand. A 2-cost card draw, if you've got nothing else to do, is pretty good. It's unlikely, again, unless you're up against ramp, that this will be significant. So I'm calling this a low 2, but it's not terrible as a trick. Bo-Katan, a 3/3 for 2, but unfortunately in double red. When defeated, each player with 15 or more damage on their base draw a card. I can see a world, because she is Mandalorian, where paying that tax might be worth it to bring her out on 4. I can see it being a thing. The card draw is not terrible. She's just not terribly exciting. But this is one of the few cards I can actually see worth paying that tax for. House Cast Soldier. It's 2/3 for 2 with Saboteur. See a lot of Saboteur in red. Pretty standard stats. Not going to be too annoyed playing that on turn 2, or on turn 1, I should say. As Mandalorian, which is, of course, important. Unlicensed Headhunter, a ship that is, or a space unit. 3/2 for 2. Saboteur, another one. I mean, red really just seems to have all the Saboteur. When it's but it has a bounty on its own. When it's exhausted, it gains bounty heal 5 from your base. So I think that it's right in the name there. I mean, it's Underworld, which is important, but Unlicensed Headhunter, that's what it's used for. You're playing it out, and you're trying to kill something. A specific target, getting around any space lane sentinel. You're not wanting this one to last past the turn that it can actually activate. You want to take something out with it, because you want this to be early enough that you're not healing 5 damage off of your opponent's base. An important reprint in this set, Disabling Fang Fighter. Its stock has gone way up. Playing against having a lot of bounties put on your cards. Your opponent's playing a lot of upgrades onto the Mandalorians. Well, Disabling Fang Fighters, I don't think you can ever really go wrong with that choice. I am probably into late game is a better play than an early one, but getting rid of shields, getting rid of experience, considering the way that so many cards play off of those, I think it's going to be very strong. And Hunting Nexu is an interesting one. It's just a 4/4 for 4. It's a creature. While you control another aggression unit, this gets raid 2. So it's actually, I really like the Nexu. I'm into him. Next group. So you're going to see there's a lot of good aggression cards. Well, good. In terms of like bread and butter ones anyway. Clan Challengers, very strong at turn 5, or cost of 5 at 3/6 with a raid 3. And while it's upgraded, it gains Overwhelm. And because you're playing Mandalorians, that's what you're looking to do. IG-11, a 6/5 for 5. If this unit would be captured, it's of course a bounty hunter, so important there. If it would be captured, defeated, and deal 3 damage to each enemy ground unit, that's likely to never, ever, ever happen. However, on attack, you may deal 3 damage to a damaged ground unit, which is going to happen a lot. So, very strong card. A contender for going into rank 1, but didn't quite make it. Covetous Rivals, 5/5 for 6 with grit. When played on attack, you may deal 2 damage to a unit with bounty, so it's situational. But a 5/5 is pretty good on turn 6 with grit especially. I mean, you're not going to be ECLing this thing out in set 2. I'd say it's I put this probably as more of a low 2, but we'll see how that one turns out. Guild Target is another 0-cost condition or bounty. Attached unit gains bounty, heal, or deal 2 damage to a base. If the unit is unique, deal 3 damage. So in a very aggressive deck, this is the one you're going to want to be playing. 0 cost is always very good. Armed to the Teeth. It's a weapon. It's a 2 cost and gives 2 power. Attached unit gains on attack, give another unit +2 attack for this phase, and it's a smuggle. This one, I think you're going to see it more as a smuggled out card than you will playing it from hand. It could end up being pretty potent, but it does have the dependence on having the unit that you've attached this to begin able to attack and give the bonus to another card you can attack with that turn. I think it works better as one of the cards that works better in smuggle. So I think this is a low 2. Deathmark, 2-cost bounty, draw 2 cards. So don't know if this is going to be quite as strong in limited as it will be in constructed. And it costs a 2 to draw 2 cards. If you are going extremely aggressive, you're not always going to be putting Deathmark onto units. You're going to be wanting to hit the base. But it's good, of course, if you're playing it on a Sentinel that you just have to remove. So situational, but I think it's a low rank too. Daring Raid, it's the shock from Magic, now in Star Wars Unlimited. 1 cost for deal 2 damage to a unit or a base. Ping off a shield. Do a little damage to something that you need to hit. Hell, you could even do that, deal 2 damage to one of your own units if you think there's some benefit for doing so, to pump up some grit or something. I don't know why you do that, but I mean, I really do think that, 2 damage is not insignificant. I mean, if there were any rare bases, any 25 hit point rare bases in this set, I think it'd be a little more significant. But I'm not really going to turn up my nose at a ping like this. I think it's going to be more valuable than people think. Detention Block Rescue. 3 costs, do 3 damage to a unit. If that unit is guarding any captured cards, deal 6 damage instead. That second part, very unlikely that's going to occur. There's not going to be a lot of capturing going on in limited. There really isn't. Even at the rare and legendary level, there aren't that many capture cards. 3 for 3 damage, it's okay. It's removal. Not great removal on turn 3. If you really have to use it, then use it. It's a low 2. And Bravado, if you defeated an enemy unit this phase, this event costs 2 less to play. Ready a unit. Conditional. It's pricey. You're only ever going to play this. Well, unless you're in late game and you have something really potent out there that you want to attack with again, and you can attack with. I think it'll be okay. We'll see. Anytime there was another card in set 1, Never Stop Fighting or Keep Fighting or whatever it was, that really didn't see a lot of play. I wonder if this one will. Oh, because the other one was restricted to cards that cost 3 or less, I believe. This one doesn't have that, so now you're able to attack late in the game with something pretty significant. So we'll see if this one turns out to be worthwhile or not. All right, moving on to our rank 2 cunning cards. A lot of good, strong cunning cards in this set. And I will preface this by saying that because when I said during the leaders overview in video part 1, there's going to be a lot of competition for these cards in villainy with Cad Bane, to say the least. Strongest ones really are this top rank here, of course, because they are in villainy. Hunter of the Haxian Brood, a 4/3 for 3. When an enemy unit has a bounty, it gains shielded. Again, not bad stats, both in Underworld and Bounty Hunter, which is important. Even if you don't get the shield, it's still very strong. Lurking Tie, a 2/2 for 3, which is on par for ships like this, but has raid 2 The unit can't be captured, damaged, or defeated by enemy card abilities. So they basically actually have to run something into it to get rid of it. Pretty good. And the first card of its type. So, and then we have the pair of Forlom and Zuckuss. So I had thought about putting both of them into rank 1. They're that good. But, you know, 4/4 for 4. And they both have Underworld and Bounty Hunter, but Forlom has Droid. A 4/4 for 4 with Ambush, which is strong. Each friendly unit named Zuckuss gets +1/+1 against Ambush. So they both play off one another. A 4/4 for 4 is good. I think it's almost worth calling it a 1. It's a very, very high 2. Zuckuss, not quite as strong, although a good body on him. A 6/6 for 5. Underworld and Bounty Hunter with Saboteur. Each friendly unit named Forlom gets +1/+1 against Saboteur. So together, and they curve into one another, they are amazing. The likelihood of you getting them both in limited, very unlikely. But my goodness, if you do, if you somehow end up in Cunning Villainy with both of these cards in your draft, and they are both going to go very quickly and be a lot of competition for them, then you are at a great advantage. You know, of course, if you actually manage to get them into play. But I think the interdependency between them actually takes them out of rank 1. I could be completely wrong. I think Forlom is probably the stronger of the two because of the 4/4 ambush. There's nothing to sneeze at. A good argument for him being a rank 1. But Zuckuss is without Forlom is definitely a rank 2. But we'll see what happens. Frozen Carbonite, a 3-cost upgrade condition attached to a non-leader unit. Attached unit can't ready when played. Exhaust attached unit. Crippling and backbreaking on leaders. Unless you have a way to remove it, and there are not that many ways to remove conditions like that, I absolutely backbreaking. I would almost say this is a rank 1 if it wasn't for its cost. But my goodness, you get more than one of these in your draft. Again, it's uncommon, but it's unlikely. You will find it difficult not to be winning that game, I think. So there is an argument to be made that this could also be a rank 1, but we shall see. L337 on the heroic side, a 2/2 for 2, may rescue a captured card. That's hardly ever going to happen, but with a shield. So it's basically Crafty Smuggler, but on heroic with the Underworld tag, which is just fine. And then a smuggle as well. Can't really argue that much with that card. If you have to resource it, you can resource it and bring it out later. A 2/2 with a shield, not a terrible thing. Again, the rescue part, that's probably never going to happen. Coruscant Dissonant, a 3/4 for 3 on attack. You may ready your resource. Very good. Of course, at the uncommon level, but a very good card. And Liberated Slaves, a 3/5 for 3, just good stats. But also, hilariously, is Fringe Droid, Twi'lek, and Wookiee as its keywords. So in this set, only Wookiee really matters, or might matter, depending on what you're playing. But I look forward to this card in the future becoming core of some kind of like Fringe Droid or Twi'lek, or even Wookiee deck. But a 3/5 for 3, I am perfectly happy playing that on turn 3. Principled Outlaw, a 4/4 for 4 on attack. You may exhaust a ground unit. Much better than those other cards that require you to hit or attack a defender to exhaust them. This one just attacks and exhausts a ground unit, and it doesn't even have to say like other cards do that you need, like in set 1, that you needed to have another cunning card out there to do it. It just does it. It's pretty solid and has smuggle. And common, I like that card a lot. Millennium Falcon, so a 5/5 for 6 underworld vehicle transport. If you play this unit from your hand, it gains ambush. So you're going to be wanting to play it from your hand. And it has smuggle. So smuggle is the same cost. It just loses its ambush ability. So good utility there, and good body in space, but it's much better, of course, if you're playing it out of hand. But in a pinch, you can smuggle it. Criminal Muscle, a 1 cost 2/1. When played, you may return a non-unique upgrade to its owner's hand. This is one of those ways to remove troublesome cards like Frozen Carbonite, for example, or getting upgrades or bounties off your own stuff. And it's Underworld, which is fine. It's just extremely, it will die to anything as a 1. So I think it's a low 2, but I don't hate the card. But I think it's, well, if you have to play it, you have to play it. But it's not a cripplingly bad card. Cloud Rider, similarly, it's Underworld. It's a 3/1 for 2 with ambush. So it's basically just a glass cannon. It's a bullet. Just take something out that you need to take out. Something with a big body on turn 1. I'm perfectly fine with trading that off. And Underworld synergy, always important. Fugitive Wookiee, a 3/3 for 2. Great on turn 1. Bounty, exhaust a unit. Well, if you don't have any other units out, then that's not too terrible. Especially if you follow it up with like a Sentinel that you're not going to be necessarily wanting to attack with anyway. Yeah, very, very good. Very standard sort of card. A Privateer Sick, a 2/2 for 2 when you control another cunning unit. This unit gains shielded. Not going to be all that difficult to do. You know, hey, turn 1 Criminal Muscle, turn 1 Fugitive Wookiee, turn 2 Criminal Muscle, Privateer. You know, it's all right. It's a conditional crafty smuggler in space. So Chaincoat Collector, ambush, a 4/2 with ambush. So you're accepting this thing's just going to die when it comes out, but it's basically removal on a stick. On attack, if the defender has a bounty, however, it gets -4 for the attack. Has Underworld and Bounty Hunter. That's what sort of makes up for this card. Otherwise, it would not have been in rank 2. It may have actually dropped to a rank 3, but I think that there is a place for that card. The Resourceful Pursuers, 5/6 for 5. Bounty Hunter, Saboteur. I'm pretty okay with this one. Not terrific or really showy, but pretty strong. Fennec Shand, 7, oof, that cost, but a 4/6 with ambush, always good. On attack, deal 1 damage to the defender if it's a unit for each different cost among cards in your discard pile. So, by turn 7, you're likely to have a number of different costs in your pile. I think the number you're probably looking at is around 3 different costs by turn 7. Sometimes you'll have 4. Sometimes unlikely to get higher than 5 by that point. But that's quite a bit of damage. If you somehow are able to leverage this on turn 7 to do 5 when she comes out, it pretty much just wipes out whatever you're targeting. And it has to be to the defender if it's a unit. So you're going after big game, basically. If you can kill it before she reaches it, that's fantastic. If she can't, there's very little that's going to be able to stand up to that kind of hit, especially if it's a leader or something that heavy that you want to take out. Also, she's Underworld, so. Enticing Reward, it's a bounty. 1 cost. Search the top 10 cards of your deck for 2 non-unit cards, reveal them, and draw them. So that's okay. I mean, there's a restriction on it there to having non-unit cards, but searching 10, that's okay. Then if this unit isn't unique, discard a card from your hand. So if it's a unique that you're putting the bounty on here, so you have Cad Bane putting this bounty on, thinking this is Palpatine. I don't know. I don't know what episode that was from or what series that's from. But if it is a unique, discard one. Your real value is for putting it onto a unique card. And there are a lot of low cost, very good unique cards in this set. So I think that's going to be an easy enough one to pull off. But of course, it is a one cost bounty, which is pretty good if you're playing in or need to play out or need are working with a bounty theme for your deck. Jetpack, 2 cost, plus 2 power, attached to a non-vehicle. When played, give a shield unit to attach unit. At the start of the regroup phase, defeat that token, and it can come out with smuggle as well 2 turns later. I think that's a 4. It's very tiny. Yeah, I mean, it's aggressive. But the fact that that token goes away, it just keeps you from losing that character right away. I can see that working with, say, with Finn, you could swap out that shield token for experience, or Rose. If you had Rose Tico, but you'd have to be in blue heroic to be able to do that, and it's really unlikely that you're going to be playing Finn in limited. Again, go have a look at part 1 of our draft analysis. Look the other way. A 0 cost trick, exhaust a unit unless its controller pays 2. I think that's pretty solid in the late game control as a trick. I think it's going to have much more utility in constructed, but it does force your opponent into an interesting position. I think it's a low 2. Again, it's not. It is impacting the board somewhat. It is some control to keep you alive if necessary on an important turn, to give you a chance to be able to do something, or to recover in a game if you're facing down something very large. And it does say unit, so it can be used against leaders as well. So that's not insignificant. Bounty posting. I usually don't like tutors. A 1 cost, search your deck for a bounty upgrade, reveal it, and draw it. You may play that upgrade. I think that's what saved this one. So search it for a bounty, reveal it, draw it, and then play it. Very good, especially with the 0 cost ones. If this was just tutored up, reveal it. The funny part of this, I find, is reveal it and draw it. Well, your opponent is going to know you may play that upgrade. So you're always going to be wanting to play this on a turn in which you can actually play the card. You don't want to be sitting on it. McClunky, it's Underworld, so that's significant. Cost 1. Return a friendly non-leader underworld unit to your hand. If you deal 3 damage to a unit. That can be played at any point during the game for a 1 cost. I think it's generally very good. And in limited, it's removal as long as you can meet the conditions. Let's say that you were lucky enough to have Fennec Shand, you're playing her, or even Forlom or Zuckuss, and they're on their last legs. Pop them back to your hand, do 3 damage to something, be able to play it again. Late game, I think, is pretty significant, but I don't dislike this card at any point during the game. Surprise Strike, so we have a reprint. How many times have I won a game off the back of Surprise Strike? I've won many games. I've won playing Cunning off the back of Surprise Strike. It's very good for finishing out games. It is also very good for if you really need that opposing leader dead, you can generally do it with this card. It's solid in this set. It was solid in set 1. Relentless Pursuit, cost of 3 to choose a friendly unit. It captures an enemy non-leader unit that costs the same or less than it. If the friendly unit is a bounty hunter, give a shield token to it. So here we have capture, which again is fairly rare, but the benefit of this one is if you're using it with a bounty hunter, you get to protect it with a shield. I think this is a low 2 because it is very conditional. Capture is solid, but keeping the unit that you placed it on. Oh, and of course it also limited to that cost the same or less than it. Yeah, this one's definitely a low 2. I don't think it's a terrible card, but it is extremely situational. It has a good upside if you're playing, if you have focused your draft in that direction. So moving on to our villainy. There's only 2 that I think are really solid in just straight villainy. Ruthless Assassin, a 2-cost, 3/3 Underworld Bounty Hunter with Overwhelm. When played, deal 2 damage to a friendly unit. That's the downside. Better be hoping you're playing with, let's say, Grit or things that are shielded. But, I mean, Underworld Bounty Hunter and a pretty good stat line. Not too angry about that one. And Hut's Henchman, 3/4 for 4 with shielded. Underworld. Pretty plain, but I'm not too angry about playing on turn 4. A good batch of heroics in common and uncommon. A Grey Squadron Y-Wing, 2-cost, 1/3 on attack. An opponent chooses a unit or base they control, you may deal 2 damage to it. That's pretty good. I don't like ones generally have choice, but with a 3 body, it's probably going to last because you're not looking to necessarily do that 1 damage to anything other than the base. Yeah, I mean, it can really add up over time. Protector of the Throne, it's a Mandalorian, which is nothing to sneeze at. A 2/4 for 3, and while it's upgraded, it gains Sentinel. So I think it's a low 3. You really have to be all in on the upgrades. But remember, those are experience or shields. So only Sentinel when it does have one of those 2 things on it. So you're looking to get experience onto it or a really solid upgrade. Wookiee Warrior, Grit. Unit gets +1 for each damage on it. When played, you control another Wookiee unit, draw a card. So it's a 2/5 for 4. Has some Wookiee synergy. This thing actually, when I've been playing with it in sealed testing, lasts a lot longer than I suspected that it would. Yeah, I'm not unhappy with this. And if you're lucky enough to have some kind of Wookiee synergy, drawing a card when played, always an upside. Smuggler's Aid, heal 3 for a 1-cost, heal 3 damage from your base, and smuggle it out for 3. I mean, I'm fine with this as a smuggle card. You're really not going to want to be playing it out early. You never know. It could be a tempo play, but a 1-cost. I think it's really better as a smuggle card than it is just playing it for 1. And another tutor card that I just generally don't like tutors. However, this is the way. Search the top 8 cards of your deck for up to 2 Mandalorian and or upgrade cards. Reveal them and draw them. So you can either go for Mandalorians or upgrades. And some upgrades are Mandalorian. So I don't dislike this. If you are on Mandalorian or are looking for upgrades, and those include bounties, revealing them and drawing them, that's an okay tutor. You're likely to hit your 2 within those 8. You're not likely to whiff in limited, if that has what you've gone in on. And for our generics, Lady Proxima, a 1-cost 0/4. When you play another Underworld card, you may deal 1 damage to a base. So a lot of ping there, and she's got a big body. There are ways to get her experienced up to be more of a significant threat. And those pings really do add up. And Underworld is very, very easy to trigger in this set. Mandalorian Warrior, a 3/3 for 3. When played, you may give an experience token to another Mandalorian unit. Pretty good. Not going to really complain about him. I don't necessarily think that bottom part is going to be all that significant, but it is just a straight 3/3 body. Street Gang Recruiter turned out better when I was playing against some sealed tests than I thought. If you're playing a lot of Underworld cards, 4/4 for 5 is a bad rate, but when played, you may return an Underworld card from your discard pile to your hand. So you really want to do some more McClunky shenanigans? Well, get your McClunky back. Outside of playing a lot of Underworld and Cunning, I don't think he's very good. But you never know. There are some cards you just really want to get back who are in Underworld, and by turn 5, if something very good has left the board, you can always get this back. Perhaps an ambusher in a subsequent turn. Rich Reward, 1 cost bounty. Give an experience token out to each up to 2 units. Very strong for that cost, I think, and again plays into any kind of bounty synergy. Underworld Thug. Well, this is just it's a 2/2 for, 2/3 for 2. Much better in this set than set 1 because it has the Underworld keyword. Bounty Guild Initiate, a 1/2 for 1. When played, if you control another bounty hunter, you may deal 2 damage to a ground unit. Don't turn up your nose at that potential 2. Likely, again, if you're already playing bounty hunters, you're going to be playing a lot of them. A 2 body's okay. Having a body on the board's okay, but that when played ability is very strong. So, there are not too many that I feel are ones I'm going to avoid, and I will say that that's a good thing about this set. The vast majority of cards across all aspects are perfectly functional. But these are the ones I'm really not looking forward to playing. These are ones I'm going to avoid unless I actually have to take them for some reason. I know that a lot of these are going to be far more potent in Constructed. I just don't see them being of much use in Limited. Again, if you have to take them, put them in your deck, but rank 3 are ones that I'm actively going to be avoiding. Brutal Traditions, a 2 cost upgrade. It's a 1 powered, 2 additional hit points. If an enemy unit was defeated this phase, play this upgrade from your discard pile, paying its cost. It's a pretty high rate to pay for a 1/2 bonus. And if an enemy unit was defeated this phase, place this upgrade from your discard pile. There is a potential this could be a rank 2 or a fine one. It's just that I don't think necessarily in Limited this is going to be particularly good. If you can play it for free from your discard pile, but it's still going to cost you, and there are times, especially in late game, where you're not going to have the resources to do it, and not for the rate that it has there. Clan Ren Rescuer, a 1/2 for 2. When played, give an experience token to a unit. So basically it's going to give it to itself. So a 2 for 2/3. There are many other cards that are worth it without having to have that caveat. It is a Mandalorian, but I'm not really excited about taking it. Midnight Repairs, it's double vigilance, so you're going to be paying the tax. So 4 cost to heal up to 8 total damage from any number of units. I don't particularly want to be playing that one. It's far too passive and far too expensive for the rate that you're paying for it. Moisture Farmer has Restore 2. It's a 1 cost 0/4. Most of the time people are going to be leaving this alone. Unless you've got multiple out each turn, the Restore 2 does not make up for the fact that it really doesn't do anything else and has no other synergies. Foundling, a 1 for 1/1, and give an attached unit the Mandalorian trait. So basically, if you are working with a Mandalorian synergy, and you really have to make more Mandalorian, sure, take this one. But for the most part, a 1/1 for 1 is not worth it. Vambrace Grapple Shot, a 2/2 for 2, attached to a non-vehicle unit. Attached unit gains on attack, exhaust the defender. Again, very much like there's a cunning card that does this as well. You're looking to basically kill that target rather than exhaust it. You're probably going to end up killing the thing that you're attacking with. I don't even like this card in Constructed. I mean, the only thing here is maybe because it is an upgrade, and if you're on upgrade synergy, sure, play it, but I'm not excited to draft it. Unexpected Escape. Cost 1, exhaust a unit. You may rescue a captured card guarded by that unit. Again, capturing is extremely uncommon in this set. It's a thing, but drafting that one in a limited environment, you're not really going to get much use out of it. Command, unfortunately, I think has quite a few poor cards. Remnant Reserves, cost of 4, Command Villainy, search the top 5 cards of your deck for up to 3 units, reveal them, and draw them. By turn 4, that's not a good rate at all. Enforced Loyalty, cost 2, but you're looking at 4 because it's a double command aspect. Defeat a friendly unit. If you do, draw 2 cards. Absolutely terrible cost and rate in limited. Absolutely unplayable. Warbird Stowaway, cost 3. Again, it's command and villainy. It's a 2/3. While you have the initiative, it gains plus 2 attack. It is Underworld, but it's again one of those ones where you have to have initiative, and it's behind the curve. And Smuggle costs 4, so it's only 1 more. Okay, I guess it's a Smuggle card, but I'm not looking to draft this thing. Collection Starhopper, a 2/2 for 2 with Smuggle. No upside, really, in the way that, although it is Underworld, so maybe it has that going for it, but yeah, 2/2 for 2 is not what I'm looking to do in space on turn 1. Privateer Crew, a 2/2 for 2, but only really a smuggleable card, and it comes in very late. When played using smuggle, will give 3 experience tokens to this unit, so it's effectively a 5 cost 5/5. I'm really not very excited by that card. Outlaw Corona, sure, it's a 3/5 for 3 in space, and it's Underworld. But it has a bounty, put the top card of your deck in play as a resource. I am never playing this card in limited. I can see some ways of playing it in some constructed decks if you can basically keep it out of the reach of being destroyed, and it takes a lot to destroy it. But the threat, I know what I would do if I saw that across the table from me. I would be trying to kill it as soon as possible to get that benefit to ramp, because again, there's not that much ramp in this set, and this is basically ramp for your opponent on a stick. Kiraz Heavy Fighter, a 3/3 for 4. Overwhelm, no real relevant keywords. Overwhelm with 3 is not great. On attack, you may exhaust another friendly unit. If you do, this unit gets +3. By turn 4, your other unit's probably going to be much more valuable in doing something than turning to help the heavy fighter. Commission, this is a tutor. Unlike the other tutors, I really don't like this one. 1 cost, search the top 10 cards forever your deck for a bounty hunter, item, or transport, and reveal it, and then draw it. It's an interesting limitation. If you don't have transports, you're whiffing on that. I can't think of a single transport in this game that's worth looking for. Okay, maybe the Millennium Falcon, but it's already a smuggleable card. An item, there aren't that many great items, or a bounty hunter. I can see what this exists for. This exists for, you're playing in constructed, let's say you're playing the Mandalorian, or you have the Mandalorian unit, right? Or Boba, or somebody that needs his armor, or needs the Darksaber, or something. I just don't see this being any use in, and its smuggle cost is just far too high. I don't see it being really any use in limited whatsoever. Rank 3 Aggression, Reckless Gunslinger. It's a 1/2/1. When played, deal 1 damage to each base. It's Underworld, so that can be kind of significant, but I really don't like this card. Its smuggle cost is too prohibitive. It's just a body that can be taken out by pretty much anything very quickly, and probably will be. Sure, it's kind of aggressive, but yeah, it's again that recklessness. I would rather not be dealing damage to my own base. I can see this in Twin Suns, for sure, but not in. And maybe there's a utility somewhere in constructed, but I'm not playing this card in limited. Rokai Gunship, a 2/1 for 2. When defeated, deal 1 damage to a unit or a base. It is Underworld, fine. If I have to play this card, fine, but I'm not looking to draft it. Wanted Insurgents, a 4/4 for 3. Rebel, so no synergy in this set whatsoever. Bounty, deal 2 damage to a unit. It's an okay rate, no synergy, but that bounty is prohibitive. I really do not like Wanted Insurgents, at least not in limited. That downside is too much. Desperate Attack, a 1 cost attack with a damage unit gets +2 for this attack. So, okay, only works with grit stuff. I really don't see why I would play this card over Daring Raid, for example. I just don't personally see it. And, whoops. Pillage. Cost 4. Choose a player. They discard 2 cards in their hand. Just useless, really, and limited. You're not looking to mill anybody out. And there's much better things to do on turn 4. In Cunning, Kintan Intimidator, a 1/4 for 1. In Villainy, on attack, exhaust the defender. Sure, I'm running this into something for him to get damaged and poke at something to exhaust something. No, I really dislike that card. Underworld, fine, but no, just far too weak, and the body doesn't really mean anything. Slaver's Freighter, a 4/5 for 5, which is an okay rate for space, but when played, you may ready another unit with a power equal to or less than the number of upgrades on enemy units. Very unlikely to happen unless you are lucky enough to play into a Mandalorian deck. Frontier Trader, a 2/2 for 3. No real synergies as Fringe and Jawa. When played, you may return a resource you control to the owner's hand. If you do, you may put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. I don't get this one. It's just awful. Smuggler Starfighter, a 2/2 for 3. When played, if you control another Underworld unit, give an enemy unit 3 or -3 for this phase with a smuggler cost for the next turn. A bad rate. I mean, sure, it has Underworld. If you really had to have something in space, sure. Turn 3, I don't know. You're not likely to get any benefit out of that -3. So Villainy in generic, Black Sun Starfighter, it's a 3/2 Sentinel for 3 in Villainy. I just really don't like that card. It's a Sentinel that just gets taken out by pretty much anything. No Bargain, cost of 3. Each opponent discards a card from their hand, draw a card. That card really it screams Twin Suns to me. There's no utility in limited, and even less, I think, in constructed. Maybe there's something there with Kylo and Migs, but no, I don't really see it. A Mercenary Gunship, 3/2 for 3, so it's got good power, but the action of 4, take control of this unit. Any player may use this ability. I just don't like this thing. There are plenty of other great ships to be playing on turn 2 that you could get some utility out of. And then the Twin Pod Clown I was called, you know what? Twin Pod Clown Car, because that's how I feel about it. And that's what I'm going to call it from here on out. A 2/2 for 3 vehicle in space with very few synergies and a restore of 2. That thing's just dying before it even gets out of the gate. It's not really of any use whatsoever. At least not in limited. So there we go. Just a quick summary of what we looked at. I think that we have a solid draft set with very few truly bad cards. I think you're going to be, as long as you're sticking to your strategy and sticking to your colors, not trying to do any kind of splashing, I think most cards are going to be pretty solid and playable. Cunning really is top tier. I do find Command feels the weakest in this set overall, and there's going to be a lot of competition for Cunning, as I said. I think it's going to be a slower environment. There is some increased draft complexity here, having to consider smuggle and bounty and upgrade synergies that really wasn't there in the first set. I mean, you had the synergies of like Imperial and Rebel that you're looking for. In this one, there isn't quite the same thing. I just think that the overall play patterns in this are going to be a lot slower than set one. So be wary of your time and play fast if you have to. But of course, you know, let me know what you think. We've covered a lot of cards here, covered a lot of ground. I could be, and hopefully, when I go to reevaluate this at the end of set two's draft life cycle, I hope that I am wrong about some cards. I would like to see all cards be great. I don't want to see ones that I think are good be bad, but I mean, that's the way it is. So please let me know in the comments below what you think is going to be happening in this draft environment, what you're looking forward to playing the most. Go have a look at part 1 of our video, of course, that talks about the leaders. I really am interested in getting a lot of discussion around draft going, because I don't really see a lot out there. I imagine that draft was not as common in set 1 because at the beginning it was easier to get cards. I think set 2 there is going to be a lot more stores doing drafts in your area, because this is by and large the method that people are going to be getting their cards, not just buying the boosters, since we know how heavily they were allocated. So I think the draft is going to be far more significant, and as such I can get a lot more feedback. So thanks very much for watching, and until next time, happy gaming. Thank you so much for watching Longship Gaming. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It will really help the channel to grow and improve. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when more Longship Gaming content goes live. Until next time, happy gaming.